The Jamie and Chris Don't Be an Idiot podcast. The Jamie and Chris Don't Be an Idiot podcast.
Hi. Hey, welcome to the Jamie and Chris show. I'm Jamie. This is Chris. Today we're talking about something that comes up all the time. How are we being surveyed by everyone out there, or surveillanced by everyone out there? I feel like everywhere you go, there's a camera. And once we start pulling this data together, and putting it together as a big file on how your reactions are, what you're doing during the day, where you're dropping your kids off, I think this could be used for good, but I also feel like this could be used for bad. It's funny, I noticed the other day on Facebook, not that I'm a Facebook lover, but one of the community pages in my community said, no flock cameras. And I looked at my wife and I'm like, what the flock is a flock camera? But, from there, I started doing some research. I got Chris kind of involved in it. And, we want to know, is this good? Is this bad? What's going on? So what the flock is going on here?
Right. So you have a number of players right now that are working with governments. They're collecting private data. And really, you can go, you can start your day. You can go out and get coffee, maybe stop at the grocery store, drop your kids off at school. And all that data can be compiled through a number of different private companies into knowing exactly what your day is like.
Right. Which actually scares me because like I said before, they're going to be sitting there going, they know when you take a shit.
Right. Yeah, in a lot of ways. This affects daily life through increased monitoring of movements, potential profiling, faster policing responses. But it also raises a lot of privacy concerns. I mean, the first thing that when I think about this stuff, when I hear about it, I just think, what are the Fourth Amendment implications of something like this?
Right.
Because there are a lot of court cases in the past that have dealt with a lot of these issues.
And I think they're pushing a lot of this through court right now of trying to figure out how to regulate this. And, right now I think to kind of go off here, are they tracking every movement? Where is this located? How are they doing it today? And what is this data being used for? And is it being used for, the good or the bad? The good or the bad. And I know there's like policing, positivities here. I mean, nobody wants to not stop a rapist. Nobody does not want to stop, someone shooting a gun at someone else. At what point in all of our society is this being used for good and bad, kind of like a nuclear warhead? Right,
because a lot of people are going to say, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, what's the matter? What's the problem, right?
Right.
It's like, who cares if they know that you went to the grocery store? They can figure that out by going through your credit card receipts or something.
Sure.
So,
but how does it impact our daily lives?
And so that's where we get to this routine tracking. So just, if you start, if you go back to kind of where it started, with just tracking license plates, going through intersections. Okay, we saw you. You burned through this red light.
Like my red light tickets down in Chicago that I never paid.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, so I guess they were amongst the first adopters of that technology, weren't they?
Right, right. I wanted to always take a picture of $100 bill and send it to them.
Right.
Here you go. You got a picture of me. You don't even know if I'm driving that car, who's driving that car, but you're tagging the car.
You're tagging the car, and it's under your name, so they send you the ticket.
Right, which I think is complete BS.
So that's true because you can say, well, I wasn't driving the car, and I'm not required to tell you who was driving the car.
Right.
All you know is that someone who was driving my car drove through a red light. Right.
At this time and whatever.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So it starts with the license plate.
Could have been my twin brother.
Right? Could have been. But it starts with the license plate, but technology continues to get better and better. I mean, when you think about Illinois, that's kind of
try not to.
The same type of technology that's being used in the tolling system, right?
Sure.
The overhead tolling that knows when you went through it and everything. And so, But once you start saying, okay, so we got this, and we can, which I think is pretty amazing, especially when you're on the expressway.
Well, they're building that searchable history of your everyday life pattern, right?
And then they can profile you. And but once you say, okay, well, let's take it to the next step. Let's start doing facial recognition.
Right.
And
which supposedly they're not supposed to scan your face.
Okay.
But they're obviously scanning your face. You can tell that by your phone when you pull it up and it needs a facial scan to open your phone.
Right.
I mean, you got to be kidding me. All this data is going. Wonder why they're building so many data centers.
Right.
You know?
Not just AI stuff.
Right. What's going into these data centers that everyone's fighting in their backyards right now?
And so, yeah, that's interesting that you mentioned the biometrics on your phones. It's like, how is that stored?
Right.
It's like, who else has data for that? So, if you start taking, when you look at like the 23andMe and you look at the biometrics that you just do in your daily life, and if you merge that with, okay, we've got this person, we know it's this person that got out of this car, it's registered to them, they're walking, it matches the biometric data that we have of them committing a crime. So at what point do we really cross the line on some of this stuff? Because the good thing is, like what you mentioned, is you could have real-time alerts with the biometrics. You say, this person was spotted here, and this is one of the most wanted people.
At the 7-Eleven that, he robbed 3 weeks ago, right?
And so, like, the Fourth Amendment was created with the idea that, you get privacy from the government.
Right.
And if, and at what point do you lose your privacy? Usually, like in the past, it would be like, well, you have to get some kind of warrant by a judge or whatever it may be before they come and they search you.
Sure.
But all of a sudden, they're taking this data that's, if you're out in public, I guess, you're
right. I mean, it's like,
right?
you watch these guys on YouTube and they're filming someone in public and they're like, yo, take me off your camera. Take me off your camera. He's like, you're in public. I can film you.
Right.
And that's if you don't like it, hide from it. Right. But, I guess the same thing happens with, like Princess Diana and all that. It's like you're out in public, people are going to film you. People are going to see you. But when that data starts getting used against you and gets used for government purposes, Big Brother purposes, George Orwell purposes, then we've got a major problem. And I get it, so real-time alerts and investigations like gun firing, Amber Alerts, another one, hit and runs, the speed response thing. I guess when it's like overly, there's a give and take there. If it's over, 20 miles an hour or something like that, I get it.
But so what if you get scope creep on all this stuff? Because,
well, let's explain what scope creep is, right?
So scope creep, you start with one task, and then it grows into another task. It keeps on growing.
It's like dynamite in a mine, right? And now it's being used to kill people.
And you're with the FBI, and or just say the Department of Justice. You're with the Department of Justice, and you say, okay, so FBI is going to use this. We're going to try to catch fugitives or whatever it may be. But then the IRS starts knocking around, and they say, you know what? This person said that they only made $20,000 a year. What kind of data do you have on this guy? And you see him like going out to fancy restaurants or whatever. Where does it end?
Right.
It's like how much intrusion will the public accept?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of like, everybody wants to know everything about everyone whenever they want it, right?
Right.
Like they want Trump's taxes, they want Omar whatever's, how she went from nothing to 30 million. So, it seems like everything is getting more and more in depth, right? And I attribute this to the 24-hour news cycle now. Before when we were kids, it was a half hour of, federal news and a half hour of state news. And now it's like everybody wants to know everything. So now is this another way for everyone in the broader ecosystem? Is this another way to tag us all and control us all, and it's a question that we got to ask here.
Right. Do you want to be surveilled on these crazy levels?
Right.
And so where do we turn it off? Law enforcement's great. you gotta respect it. Anything to like go after criminals, like not many people can complain about that, but how much leeway is the government given to be able to achieve those goals?
Right.
And so, but then think about like the private sector. So because these are private companies that are collecting all this data, and they work with the government, they provide the government, so the government, they provide these predictive tools now to be able to anticipate, well, based on our data on this person, we bet that he's over here at this time or something.
Right.
If you want to go find him. But what if it's, what if they start saying, well, just like you can go online and say, I can type in,
search for T-shirts, and T-shirts come up.
Well, I can,
all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking personal information.
Well, but that is personal information. If they know you want a fucking T-shirt, then they're going to try to keep selling you T-shirts until you make a. I mean, there's all personal information, right?
Right.
And then we look at we give Facebook this like open, and they say they don't listen to you, but I can tell you they listen to you. We give them the open privilege of allowing them into our lives to know what we're doing every fucking second of the world.
Right, especially like the smart devices and everything, right?
Right.
I know that. I
unplugged all mine.
Have you?
Yeah.
I know that I've said, tell me about something, and then the next time I go on like my email or something, I see an ad for something like that.
Right.
It's like because it's like these cross-platform types of marketing companies that do this. But and that's really crazy, right? But so here's something. So an application that I've developed for people is this tool that allows me to find a person. I can like find you. I can find all your past addresses. I can find your date of birth, obviously your age. You can find associated people. It's kind of like when you go online and say, find this person for 10. We'll give it to you for $10. That
of your data,
right?
Right.
There are these data aggregators that collect so much data. But what if they came around and said, you know what, we got a new product too. We can give you biometric data on these people too. And so then all of a sudden your homeowners association is trying to solve, who left the mess in the clubhouse.
Right, or whose dog shit in my yard.
Right, exactly.
Right,
it's like,
like, hey, I know he walks the dog at 12:30 every night, and I know there's shit in my yard at 12:45, and I see him pass my yard. I mean, I guess you could do that with cameras too, but.
But still, it's like, but what if it was like some kind of biometric data, like sensor that said, this is you, or whatever, on this camera. And so all of a sudden, like you've got all these different organizations that can start subscribing to all this data.
Right. And
so
can they prosecute based on that data, and harass you? I mean, we're all about the big bully, right? Is this the big bully coming?
Right. I mean, this is 1984 stuff.
Right. That's what scares me.
Right. And so, so this gets back to the question of mass surveillance versus reasonable expectations of privacy.
Right.
And so that's where we have to. I think it's going to have to be hashed out in a lot of courts. What's acceptable.
And this comes
for
back
government.
to your Fourth Amendment concerns that you were talking about.
And I think this, and it kind of all gets back to the Fourth Amendment because that's really what governs our right to privacy and who gets the access. What that was, people. I always wondered about like traffic stops when. Sobriety checkpoints.
Well, and
people
that has, it's
right?
funny, and I watched this attorney on YouTube, right? Mm-hmm. And he dissects a lot of these pullovers. Like the last one, the guy never drank a drop of alcohol in his life, and they pull him over for a DWI. And it's just a guy, the cop is just harassing them. Uh-huh. But it's like, thank God they had video proof, so the guy actually got out of the whole thing. But it cost him thousands of dollars because you had this bad cop in the middle of BFE that thought, you know what?
Ambitious cop.
Yeah.
A zealous cop. Right?
Yeah, and he basically made this guy's life hell for no reason. And then, amazingly enough, they also knew to turn off that camera when they were talking between cops. Mm-hmm. And trust me, I love my cops.
Mm-hmm. I think I saw in some of the Tennessee news that there have been a number of cases where you've had some cops who are just overzealous. And they pull people over for OWI when they're totally sober.
Right. And they oh no, he failed the test. No, you know, and you know you didn't.
Right.
And the guy's like, give me a breathalyzer. That's all I got. I could tell you, I don't blow alcohol.
Right. And so if you know, especially in urban areas, because, you know, for the most part, you know, we talk about this stuff being ubiquitous, but when it gets to like those the traffic systems, those are mainly in urban areas.
Right.
And so that kind of data could be very helpful in a case like that.
Right.
If you're on a country road, you know, there aren't that many cameras out there,
Well,
obviously.
yeah, but you know, again, it's warrantless access, right? You know,
Right.
they're getting your data, they're processing your data, they're looking at you, and they're making a case on you before there's even anything to have a case on.
And think about it like with like Google, because I know that. I remember, you know, you have your location on Google, and it basically remembers every place you've been. And so it's like, I used to get these maps from them and say, oh, here are all the places you were last month or last year. And you're like, wow, that's kind of creepy.
It is creepy.
You know, it's like, so there's, you know, we're a very digital world, very, you know, online world. And so these are some of the things that are coming up. So
Right.
where do we stop?
Yeah, you know, let's talk about how long this data, you know, is stored, and you know, is it? I mean, they're building massive centers, so they must be wanting to store more of it, and they're profiting over this data. Now, are they profiting over these flock cameras out there?
I think so. Anytime you have a private company, they're not in business just to be volunteers, obviously.
Yeah.
And this is really all being developed in the private sector,
Right.
with a business case. And so.
And who are the companies? Palantir is one of them.
Yeah, Flock is the actual like brand name, I think, for the
Oh,
company,
is
or
it?
the company name, I think. Yeah. So I'm not. So I think they came out around 2017 or so.
Okay.
And started moving forward. I'm sure they grew pretty quickly because a lot of governments were excited about that. Especially, you know, cities that have problems with people blowing red lights and
Yeah.
speeding and racing and things like that.
What about,
So-
you know, we talk about that, but I mean, can it be used in, you know, finding out who was in a protest and who to target in a, you know,
Right.
and, you know,
So-
that,
All of a sudden, the FBI file becomes really a digital file. You know, it used to be
like
like
the
this-
January 6th, did
right?
they know
the
who was there?
J6 people, right? It's like, yeah, because you have facial recognition, and you're being associated with that, and people, you know, then on top of it, you know, I do think that there's a lot of like, there are a lot of battles between tech companies and governments when they try to go after things. But as we saw in the Biden administration, they broke through a lot of those barriers and captured phone data and other data on people.
Right. So these are
and so-
abuses and biases towards, you know, certain sectors and
Right.
certain, you know, groups and certain political beliefs and,
And even personal, you know, there was a cop in Milwaukee who recently had to resign because he had tracked his ex-girlfriend and boyfriend
180 times.
in like 2 months.
Right.
So
right.
this guy's like sitting around like just totally abusing the system.
Right.
And that's the kind of stuff. So you get access to that kind of stuff.
I actually didn't know Milwaukee had this flock system. Yeah, which is kind of surprising. But, you know, hearing about this guy, I mean, this could happen across the board, especially if you get these people in power using this against the people that aren't in power, right?
Exactly. For personal reasons like that too, especially.
Right.
And but you know, some of those systems kind of get developed with those shots fired kind of things.
Yeah.
And that's all good policing. You know, it doesn't seem to be solving too much, but at least they know, you know, they're using this kind of technology to say, okay, shots just went off on this block right over here or something, some police
Right.
over or something.
Zero in. But that also, you know, talking about this, and I know this is kind of a little off, is how many of these crimes aren't reported that now we're going to have this influx of a crime in every place. You know, worrying
Right.
about like, now we've got 100 cops, now we need 1,000 cops because all this other stuff wasn't reported.
And that is interesting because, you know, that affects crime statistics, right?
Right.
That could be really bad for a lot of these cities that had so much underreported crime
Sure.
data. And so, Right.
I guarantee one to our south, Chicago.
I think one of the, besides the crime solving thing is the deterrence effect. And I think that, when you and I were young.
Is this the effect of if we hang someone for that crime publicly and these people see that crime and see that hanging, will it deter those people from causing that crime?
Well, that kind of.
It's kind of the same concept, right?
But I kind of think of it the way that, you go up to my house and you see smart cams, like webcams all over the place.
Uh-huh.
My house would probably be the last one a criminal would want to go after because you're gonna
because all the big spotlights
you're gonna be videoed like 4 different ways. It's like I'm a geek. I'm
you
a
have one of
technical
those
guy,
tapes as you're walking out the door that shows how tall he is.
Right, exactly.
And,
got one of those tapes. Yeah, that looks like 5'11".
It looks like 5'11" from the camera on the tape. Like you see at Subway.
But right, and so you have to wonder, so if for people who are aware of these flock systems or other kind of surveillance systems, they're going to think twice before doing it. And I think that's why a lot of these criminals really loved the COVID era, where people were being forced to wear masks, right? Because at one point it was illegal to walk into a bank with a mask, and then the government said you have to wear a mask, and so people can walk around covered up. And now you still see people do that. It's almost like it's kind of a fashion statement for thug culture.
Yeah, wow.
And that's how they kind of get around it. And it is kind of funny because I remember looking at some of that stuff and some of the cameras, and I think I showed you. I was like, there's easy technology to blow away these cameras where they can't see you at all. And not that I'm going to talk about it on the recording, but but there's always some kind of there is always kind of a technology race on some of the stuff, but a lot of people, I think it's a good deterrence in a lot of ways, but I think it needs to be monitored and controlled.
Deterrence, and also they claim 700,000 cases a year of recovered stolen vehicles, faster leads, cases being solved of violent crimes, and so it does have some positivity here. There's just how much intrusion for that positivity, right? And how much of the misdirection and the whatever else their scam is, or their not so scammy. There's definitely positives.
I have to wonder how many lawyers are out there saying certain things are inadmissible in court.
Oh, I bet a lot.
Because they could say, this was a total violation. This should not even be used as evidence against my client.
I bet, and this could change those rules too, right? Yeah.
And so anyways, but I think the locating missing persons is a great thing.
Nobody's against that. I mean, nobody's against the positive. It's just now, you're using splitting the atom now to nuke people, right?
Right.
So, I mean, where do we go from here? Do we allow this to happen, or do we cut it off now? Which now it's already rampant. We know that it's coming this way, and that people are going to accept it no matter what, because we are just such a blind culture of accepting.
I think it has to be litigated all the way up to the Supreme Court, because we can't have, number one, our Fourth Amendment's obviously a federal restriction, and I think that we can't have one state have one set of standards, another state having a different set of standards, because number one, you don't know what to expect from state to state, but then number two, it's a federal restriction, and I think that should be something that goes to the Supreme Court, where you say, okay, this is acceptable, this is not acceptable, and where law enforcement, government, and even private associations, private people understand the limits of what's acceptable.
Yeah.
Because I think that, we all want crime to be minimized and crimes to be solved.
Well, some of us do. Other people that want to limit, the police department and have social workers and stuff, I'm not sure they really care.
Cause riots.
Yeah.
attack ICE agents, things
Right.
like that.
I'm not sure they really give a shit.
Right.
You know, especially when people are murdering people and they think they should get off because they're, you know, whatever.
Because of a technicality.
Yeah, right.
And so, yeah, so anyways, there could be more stalking cases. We mentioned the one about the one cop. And
Yeah, the Milwaukee cop.
There could definitely be, I'm sure there are plenty of other cases of stalking by
Yeah, I
officials,
mean,
public
there's
officials.
plenty of people that go out there and stalk people on cameras. I mean, they do it to celebrities. I mean, just for one. I
And
mean,
what
those
if you have
people are
false-
stalkers.
If you have false positives,
Yeah,
you know, we're a country of what, about 330 million people?
right.
I mean, there have to be, even like your DNA, I'd be like, well, you're one out of, you know, like, you know,
I'm 1 out of 1.
200 million or something.
I'm 1 out of 1. We
One
all
out
know
of-
that.
You're the only one that exists.
Yeah.
They broke the mold.
They broke, yeah. God
Yeah.
was like, forget it. This guy's perfect. We're done. We're done.
So,
It was a
But-
drop the mic moment.
so but you know, you can have false positives in everything. And so just like, you know, a lineup can produce false positives.
Right.
You know, it can lead, hopefully that's minimized. But, you know, it's just one tool, obviously. And if people end up getting arrested, hopefully there's other information.
Was I reading that, you know, the gunfire one, that 50% of those gunfire reports are false?
Really? Like it
Yeah.
could be fireworks or something? Or
Yeah,
what?
it could be fireworks. It could be a car backfiring. It could
I was
be.
just wondering about
Yeah,
that. Right?
50% of them were false.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, when we're talking about false positives, here's a perfect example of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to cite some of the stuff I read down in the, you know, in the description below, on YouTube, that is.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys can be the judge. You can read about this stuff, right?
Right. And so that's I guess that's screaming for a need in technological improvement.
Right. Well, you know, and I'm sure they'll come out with.
Yeah.
It's ever changing, right?
And you know, I guess if they break down like a sound wave, that, I mean, they've got to be very similar, right? It's basically the same thing.
Sure.
It's gunpowder, right?
Right.
Presumably. I'm not an expert at bullets or anything, but
Yeah.
yeah. So, anyways, but so you know, there's, you know, obviously people can get concerned about the reduced freedom of movement and speech and disproportionate impacts in certain
Right.
communities, because it's obviously going to be used where, you know, in urban centers. It's not going to be used out in
Well, and that's
country
like,
areas and
that's
stuff.
like me right now. You know, I'm looking at moving into the country, and I'm like, I don't want neighbors. I don't want anybody around me. I'm like, I'm good. But you know, I don't want to be filmed.
Right.
You know.
Right.
I
And,
know,
yeah.
but see, I also know I'm not. Well, I probably speed, of course, but I'm not breaking the law like other people are. You know, other people
You speed?
maybe.
Okay.
I do. I speed once in a while.
Once in
Yeah.
a rare occasion.
Rare.
When you're in a hurry to get to church.
Right. Right.
Yeah. But, you know, I think data breaches. So this is a very controversial topic, and it'd be great to hear from other folks. You know, have you experienced over surveillance?
Has this affected you? And give us some, you know, some things to go after here.
Does it limit your daily movements?
Right.
You know, it's
Or has this become like an agoraphobic thing, right? You know, where now you're afraid to leave your house because everyone's filming you.
right, exactly. Because I tell you, I mean, I like work with some security cameras, and some people are like, I just don't like those. I just don't like those. I'm like, well, what's the problem? Like, well, I just don't like to be videoed. I'm like, what are you doing? You know, it's like,
Right.
you know,
right.
it's like,
Get the camera out of my face. You know, and it's funny because, you know, it goes to like the protester thing that we were talking about earlier too. And a lot of these guys wearing these masks, right? You know, they're wearing full masks. They don't want to be filmed, right? Well, why? I mean, if you're not doing anything wrong, why not be filmed?
right, exactly.
But,
yeah,
you know, but I also see the other side of that is I don't want to be filmed,
right,
you know, but I know I'm not doing anything wrong either.
right. But what gives you the right to have footage of me, right?
Right. Right.
So-
I get it. But
We'd love to hear from people.
yeah, you know, like, subscribe, communicate with us. Appreciate tuning in for the show. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, you can on Spotify, you can find us on YouTube. We're open for comments. Appreciate you tuning in to Jamie and Chris. Don't be an idiot. Don't be an idiot. We'll see you on the next show. Bye.